Hello and welcome to episode 82 of On the Bench, the podcast for scale modelers, by scale modelers, all about scale models. And this latest episode is being brought to you through the generous support of David Waples, who has just recently become a Patreon supporter. If you'd like to help support the show, you can do so by going to www.patreon.com/onthebench and pledge any amount from $1 upwards. Your support is greatly appreciated. The Scale Modeler Supply. Certified Australian made, the Scale Modeler Supply has created a comprehensive range of premium acrylic lacquer paints that have been specifically developed to cater for the scale modeler. Designed to use straight from the bottle, SMS paints have taken all the guesswork out of airbrushing. Simply shake the durable glass bottle and pour and spray for a fast drying and extremely durable result. The ever-growing range of SMS paints will suit all types of model builders, be it military, aircraft, train, car, science fiction or gunpla. SMS premium acrylic lacquer paints will have the colour to suit you. The Modeler Supply is also your one-stop shop for all weathering, brushes, masking, tools and other accessory needs. SMS paints and tools and accessories are available either directly from their website, www.scalemodeler.com.au, or through stockists across Australia, New Zealand, Singapore and the USA. And as a special bonus exclusive to our On The Bench listeners, you will get 10% off your next order by using the promo code OTB2020 when ordering direct from Scale Modeler. So go now to www.scalemodeler.com.au and place your order. We know you won't be disappointed. The show, and on the interweb, I've got Ian. G'day, Ian.
G'day, Dave. G'day, listeners.
And Julian.
Good morning.
This is take 3 because the system keeps doing a reset. Oh, well, let's persevere and see if we can get through. Hopefully it's working now by the looks of it. Ian, what have you been up to?
Besides work, not a great deal. But today I'm going to attempt to attach the backbore rear canopy to my Buffalo. Do a bit of work on that and maybe do a little bit of more work on the Canberra.
Right. Julian?
Yeah, I'm still on a modelling vacation because I've attempted to build a few short run kits all in a row now, and I haven't finished any of them.
Oh, no. So you're sort of stuck in a hiatus.
Yeah, for the time being. There's also other things I like to do, like read and play video games. So they're occupying a bit of my time as well. They're not helping.
Well, it's funny you should say video games because Ian's got me hooked on World of Warships at the moment. So
it's quite addictive, isn't it, though?
Addictive. That's all I've been doing the last week. That and work. And work's been extremely busy because we've had our wettest end of April, start of May on record. So I've been extremely busy with work. But when I managed to find a couple of hours, I'm sort of on World of Warships. And you're right, it's addictive. And you can see how these games sort of are great feeders for people who getting into modelling, because you want to just go and build a model of the class of ship that you're playing with, so it's really great.
Exactly.
I've played a little bit of this game too. It's sort of been a bit like that for me. Like I sort of saw some of the Italian ships, and then I immediately sort of went over to, and started looking for 350 Italian cruisers and things like that to build.
Yeah, Trumpeter does some. They do the Polo, which is not a bad little kit.
Yeah, they do a couple of them actually. But you're right, and I imagine it must be the same for those guys who play World of Tanks and World of Aircraft, I think the other one is.
Yeah.
Well, I believe World of Tanks is the original and it's the most popular one.
Yeah, yeah.
And obviously, like being able to sort of be a non-modeling person and pick up and build a tank kit is a lot easier than being a beginner and trying to build a ship, right?
Oh, yeah. Or especially a highly detailed ship.
Oh, absolutely. Tanks are much easier to sort of start with than anything else. In fact, I think tanks would have to be the easiest thing to start with as a model builder, full stop.
Yes. At least, yeah, like some, as long as it's like the rubber tracks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't imagine
basic one color paint scheme.
Yeah, your standard Tamiya kits would suit them just fine.
Well, even just a 1/72 scale sort of kit just to start off, it's a great sort of entry level.
Yeah, yeah.
And you
Totally agree.
And you could say the same with aircraft too, really. 1/72 scale have to be a great entry level also.
Yep. Definitely is, Dave.
So, yes, it's been a really, really busy month. We're still in lockdown at the moment. Hopefully they're going to start easing the restrictions soon. April's been a huge month for the podcast. We've had our largest monthly downloads, just shy of 10,000 downloads, which is absolutely amazing.
That's great.
There's a lot of people out there listening and tuning in, which is great. We love having people. And, of course, we also would like you to spread the word to those people who are yet to discover us. And you can do that by whatever download app you're doing. Just click on it and give us a review. Or if you're listening to iTunes, just give us 5 stars. And it just helps other people find the show. Okie dokie. So let's roll in. We've got a heap of emails, listener mail that came in. So I think we really need to get into that first of all.
Yes.
All right, let's start off with the first one, and it comes from Tony. And Tony writes, I think Julian and Ian are both right in regards to dioramas. A diorama has to tell a story, and this is going back to our last episode where we were talking about how to display your models. A diorama has to tell a story, and the human element is what can tell a better story. The human element can be a Shep Payne's Crash Liberator, which has obviously crashed and been badly damaged, so you can almost feel what the crew went through.
That was the Lady Be Good.
Yeah. Figures, of course, introduce a human element, but so could a broken fence, a bottle, some barbed wire that hint at what or who were there. For the abandoned tank examples, what matters is how you make it look abandoned. The landscape it's in. Is it a ditch? Is it a shell hole? Is it damaged? Is it burnt out? If it's just sitting in a landscape with the hatches still open, it's still a diorama. Just pretty boring, crappy one. Cheers, Tony.
Well said, Tony.
Next one. Jay writes in. Jay Shanstens is from Minnesota, USA. Actually, I think you pronounced his second name wrong. No, I got it right. Shanstens. I got that right. No, Joe.
No offense, Dave, but I mean, it's pretty likely that you'll pronounce his name wrong.
I know. Anyway, Jay from Minnesota, USA writes in, hello, Dave, Ian and Julian. On one of the last episodes, Dave said he did not prefer waterline ship models. My 2 best models have been based on underway photos of a given ship owned by a former crew member. I've tried to reproduce the ships as the crew member sees them from the photo. I'm attaching a couple of photos relating to my latest ship model, which is the USS Henderson DD-785, which was my father-in-law's ship from the 1950s. I plan on giving it to him as a surprise. Lots of custom and scratch work in this one. Thanks, guys. Love the podcast. Jay, it's not that I don't like waterline ship models. It's just that I like seeing the entire hull and form of the ship. And if you sort of shove that in a water scene, you can't. However, I am in awe of people who can do a good waterline ship model in its water element, and I wish I was that skilled that I could actually do it. And the photos that you sent me of the USS Henderson look absolutely amazing. It's in 1/700 scale as well, which makes it even more special because you've got all the railings and the photo etched there. It just looks awesome. So, thanks.
I I was just thinking, Dave. So there are people out there who actually prefer their aircraft models without all the engines and gun bays and cockpit open, so that they can see the lines of the plane. And you're that equivalent, I think, for ships.
Yeah, it's like if I had a choice between. Let me think now. How can I say this so it's not politically incorrect? I'd rather see Marilyn Monroe in a nice, tight-fitting dress than seeing her in a state of undress. And I feel the same about my ship models. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a good analogy?
Okay.
Oh, okay, I'll step away from that. I'm just trying to think
I
of
want
a
to
way of
work on that
expressing
one
it.
for a bit.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think so. All right, next one comes... Moving on. Next one is from Dale Tice, I think you pronounce his name, and Dale writes, "Hi Dave, Ian and Julian. I have recently started listening to podcasts on the bench, so happened to be the first one I tuned to, so I'm now tuning in every fortnight. I've been modelling on and off since I was 13 years old, mainly 135th Armour and 148 aircraft. However, I recently discharged from the Royal Australian Navy after 14 years of service.
Thanks for your service.
I'm not sure if I was feeling seasick, but for weeks, every time I went to my local hobby shop, I found myself looking at model ships. So I bit the bullet and bought a 1350 scale Tamiya Bismarck, followed by all the aftermarket gun barrels, PE, and decking.
Oh, you're going to have fun.
With the kit and all the aftermarket bits in hand, I was ready to go. So I thought... However, I have no idea where to start, so I tuned into episode 45 of On the Bench about model shipbuilding. This particular episode answered most of my questions, and your latest episode on rigging was also very informative. Which leads me to a question of colour selection for your model ships, as greys aren't just greys. As you would be aware, naval ships around the world are painted in different tones of grey, so how do you guys choose the right tone of grey? Thank you for producing an amazing podcast. Regards, Dale.
Well, what I do is I've got, I went online and I can't remember where I found them, but if you spend a bit of time and search, you can actually find the paint chips for most navies. And I've basically downloaded all those paint chips now, and I now have them on my system. So when it comes to doing a certain ship, I check to see what colours they were, and then I colour match from there.
Another way too is you get the, particularly if it's a Western Navy ship, there's generally an FS number for the actual paint that they use. And if you just punch that into your computer, the FS number, and say convert to Tamiya or SMS or whatever your actual paint is that you're using, guns, whatever, it'll generally bring you up with an equivalent that you can then go and order.
Yeah.
So that's the best way.
Plus a lot of the newer paint brands now have got their own naval ranges.
Yes, absolutely.
With the correct colours.
Yeah. So there's a lot of information. It's just a case of going online and sort of hunting it down to get the correct one for the particular ship that you're building. And also it's important to look at what year you're replicating the ship, particularly if it's a World War II one. Because throughout the war, they got redone and recamouflaged and different paints throughout the entire service.
Yeah, and if you're doing one that's war weary and been around the tracks, then you can start like adding different shades of reds to the hull and greys, just to show where they've done patchwork and repairs.
Yeah, absolutely.
That looks quite good on a large scale ship too.
Yeah, it does. It does. All right. Well, hopefully, I've asked Dale to sort of keep us informed as to how he's going with the build. So hopefully he'll get back to us. Yeah.
Honestly, a good idea for Dale. Go to the White Ensign Models website. Hopefully it's still running. I haven't been there for a while. They've got great colour selections for Kriegsmarine, US Navy, Royal Navy, Italian, and so Commonwealth. So White Ensign Models, the go-to for getting colours and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, if you're searching for colours, like it helps if you actually know what the actual name of the paint color is.
Yeah.
You know? Like, it'll be like, okay, what were some of the names that were Japanese ships? So you had like Asuka Grey or something like that.
Oh, yeah, Yokosuka Grey. Yokosuka Arsenal. So they were 4 colours. They're Kure, Yokosuka.
Sasebo Grey.
Yeah, and there was a 4th one, which I can never remember.
Mm.
And they were all from the major ports where they came from.
Yeah, so I mean, like there'll be similar equivalents for the U.S. Navy,
Kriegsmarine,
etc. Yeah, it really helps if you hunt those down because you might get like several different opinions on what people are using.
Yep.
If you search for that.
Absolutely.
Yep, definitely agree.
Absolutely. Okay, moving on. We have an email from Jeff Inch High Groves from Yorktown, Indiana, USA, and Inch High writes in, "G'day, Dave, Ian, and Julian. I've been listening to your podcast lately while modelling during the recent unpleasantness and have enjoyed each one. Keep up the good work, as you and other modelling podcasts are a great help in keeping morale up. Here in the USA, there is much debate as to what makes a diorama versus a vignette or a base, so I was interested in hearing your recent discussion. IPMS US have introduced a criteria regarding height of surrounding scenery. If the scenery is higher than the model, then your entry is not a base, it is now a vignette or a diorama. At one of the local shows, a modeler attempted to enter a tank on a base with a tree in the appropriate armour category, but the judges moved it to the diorama category because of the height of the tree. When the judges explained why the entry had been moved, the modeler reached over and snapped off the tree and said, "It's just a base now, so you can move it back."
Wow. That's taken it to the next level.
Oh, gee, that's a classic. Oh, jeez. And Jeff gives us the link to the IPMS USA rules. So he goes on. As far as the best kit goes, I have a few choices. I agree with David Knights from Plastic Model Mojo that the Tamiya Zeros are about as good as you can get, but I have to say the fine mould Zeros are just as nice, although much more expensive and harder to find. All the Tamiya offerings in 1/72nd scale are well engineered and easy to build, but there is just something a little extra in their Zeros. As far as ships go, the Airfix Japanese seaplane tender Akishimira in 1/72nd is a great kit, but takes up a lot of shelf space. Box art attached. I didn't even know that Airfix.
What kit is it?
The Airfix Japanese seaplane tender Akit Sushimura, AKITSUSHIMA. I didn't know they did one in 1/72nd.
I'm actually Googling it now because I haven't heard of it either.
And in 1/72nd scale, that'd be huge.
Atikashima.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on. Atishima. Oh, it says scratch built on this one.
Hmm.
Okay. So I remember seeing Hasegawa did a 1/350 scale Japanese seaplane tender, but I've never heard of Airfix doing one. But not to say it's not out there.
Well, he's attached a picture of the box art, although that can be sort of dodged up, so I don't know. But 1/72nd scale, I can't think of Airfix actually making one that size. So interesting.
Yeah, I believe it exists. I found like one photo of it, of the box anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
I'll have to do a bit more research.
There's stuff out there we don't know of. There we go.
Exactly. All right, next up, David Wapples writes in, I have a couple of tips for rigging Lycra that may change your world, at least when it comes to rigging models. Tip 1, CA and accelerator. When we say CA, we're talking about superglue.
Yep.
I learned this one from Stefan Karlsson in Sweden. Number 1, place a small amount of gap-filling CA glue where you want the line to attach. 2, soak or brush on CA accelerator to the actual end of the line. 3, touch the soaked end of the line to where the CA is and hold it for about 10 seconds, enough for the accelerator to harden the CA. Job done. It's a butt joint, so no need to trim afterwards, and it's also very strong. The only downside is if you have a misfire, you'll need to wait a while for the accelerator to gas off completely before trying it again. Now, what accelerator is, it's something actually sets off, what's exactly what it says. It sets off super glue so it hardens instantly. I've never... I have got some accelerator, but I use the really sort of runny CA glue, so it goes off really quick anyway. So when I'm doing my rigging lines, I'll just put a little, just tiny dab of it wherever I'm putting the line to, hold it there for about 5 seconds, and I find it already attaches and is in place without having to use any accelerator.
Oh, yeah. That works.
Yeah. His second... Yeah, go on.
It really all that sort of stuff is kind of it comes down to your preference of CA, because not all CAs will work with all brands of accelerator. I've tried to use very runny super glue by Zap, and I tried to hit it with accelerator from BSI Industries, and it didn't seem to do anything.
Oh, really?
His second tip is to do with UV glue, which I've always wanted to have a try.
Ah, the ultraviolet glue.
Yeah,
he used a little ultraviolet light to set it off.
Yeah, so he says, this is now my preferred method. I use Bondic brand, but others will probably work. I came up with this one when I experienced one of those misfires as described in my tip number 1. So, first of all, make sure your lighting is not UV, which is very important. Number 2, touch a small amount of the UV glue where you want the line to attach. Attach a tiny amount of the glue on the end of the line. Third step, touch the line to where the glue is and hit it with the UV light for about 3 to 5 seconds. Job done. Advantages of this method is that if you do have a misfire, you can go back immediately and do it again. The glue doesn't harden quickly, so have a little bit of time to work with it. And that little puddle of glue you're working with, when done, can be hit with a light for a few seconds, and you don't have to worry about it any longer. Enjoying the show. You all take care of yourself. David Wapples from Denver, Colorado, USA. I got to read this out. Mile High Model Ship Club. The
Mile High Model Ship Club.
The Mile High pertains to our elevation as opposed to recently legalized substances.
Yes.
Thanks for that, Dave. Actually, I've been wanting to use the UV lights with doing PE, like when I'm doing box girders or something like that, because I reckon it might be a better way of doing it rather than my current way.
Yeah, worth trying out, Dave. You'll have to try it out and let us know.
Yeah, but when I've
heard of it used for aircraft instrument panel gauges, because it tends to dry, very
clear.
Yeah, very clear and smooth, from what I understand.
I must get some and try it out. Actually, yeah, I'll have a hunt around and see if I can find some online. Ian McCauley writes in, hello fellas, enjoyed the discussion on bases. At shows I've attended here in Canada, bases and groundwork generally are not judged. If you want them to be judged, you must enter your model in the diorama or vignette class. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
The diorama must, in capitalised, must tell a story that is readily apparent to the viewer. Whereas the vignette class is simply a snapshot of a scene and does not need to tell a story.
Yes.
However, in both categories, your vehicle, figures, accessories, and groundwork are judged. At many shows I've attended and or judged in, I'm often dismayed to see how many otherwise excellent models are let down by poorly done bases. Regardless of how you display your model, put as much care and thought into the base as you have with your model. Your model deserves nothing less. Regards, Ian. P.S. Dave, say Plastic Model Mojo 50 times. I'm not going to try that. He's got some good points there.
You got very good points, mate, yeah.
Yes.
Very good. Next one is from Eric, and Eric writes, "Hi guys, Julian prompted me to think of movies where the narrative centers on a single character or team. Two books immediately come to mind, and whether movies are ever made of these books is beyond my control, but they are solid and exciting reads I'm pretty sure you and your listeners would enjoy. If you haven't read them yet, read them at your convenience and then feel free to mention them in some future episode of Listener Mail." So the first one is called Once a Pilgrim, the true story of one man's courage under rebel fire by Will Scully. And the second book is about a Medal of Honor winner in Vietnam, and apparently it'll keep us glued to our chair. And it's called Legend, the incredible story of Green Beret Sergeant Roy Benavidez's heroic mission to rescue Special Forces team caught behind enemy lines. And it's written by Eric Blelm. Oh, very good.
A couple of books I've kept my eyes out for.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks very much, Eric, for that. I'm always after a good book to read. Next one is from Brendan Walters, and Brendan writes, "Hi guys, great podcast as always. Glad I get to hear you every week now. To add to your discussion on bases, what are your thoughts on basing models on small round mirrors? I've seen several model shows where they have models and mirrors, and it really helps show off the underside of planes, even if it wasn't realistic. Cheers,
Yes.
Brandon."
That's always a contentious one. There's always that one camp that likes the mirrors, and there's that other camp that absolutely hates mirrors. Now, I personally believe mirrors are great if you got lots of hatches and stuff open in the underside of the aircraft. Then you can see them. But otherwise, I really wouldn't bother with a mirror.
Aren't they good for doing displaying car models and truck models as well?
Displaying car models and truck models, yeah. But it's mainly there to show the underside. And mostly, undersides of aircraft mostly are pretty boring, in my opinion. But if they've got all the hatches and so forth open, yeah, that adds a bit more extra for people to look at, so chuck a mirror underneath it.
I mean, like the sort of stereotype of the spinning mirror base is kind of a tacky look and takes away from the subtlety of the aircraft or plane or whatever or tank or whatever you've got on it. Because
depends how fast it's spinning too, Julian.
how fast do you want it to spin? But you know what I mean. Like when you've got it on a mirror, you tend, like I think if it's going to suit any kind of model, it'd suit a car model, just because car models tend to have bright, really eye gouging colors, etc.
Yeah.
But for military vehicles that where you can get some really subtle shading techniques when you see them at model shows, lots of great weathering. I think it sort of stops you from appreciating it to some degree.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
Yeah, it's interesting because if I'd spent a lot of time building, a super fantastic hot rod car or something like that, and put a lot of attention to detail on the running gear and chassis underneath, the only way I can think of allowing other people to appreciate is to put it on a mirror.
Correct. Yes.
With an aircraft, yeah, not really. But certainly where no need for a ship to have it underneath. No. Yeah, I think really this is sort of really for the car makers, really.
Yeah, that's my personal opinion too.
Yeah. I might also add that it does add, because light is not only coming from above but also below, because you're reflecting it up onto the underside. It tends to sort of light the model in a very unrealistic fashion.
Yeah, I suppose.
Like for example, if you've built a model and you hit it with lights and photograph it really nicely, it looks like it can look like a great model, but it's a very different story to taking it outdoors and photographing it in daylight.
Oh yeah,
Natural light,
yeah.
Oh, totally different.
And then you look at it and you're like, oh, it really is pretty convincing,
Yeah. Yep.
So you can't underestimate like the lighting and stuff. And when you put a mirror underneath it, there's no way that's going to look natural.
So your point?
Yep, I do too. All right, let's move on to the next one. Nigel Chipperfield writes in, "Hi David, as a dentist, I can't really work from home. However, the benefits are lots of bench time. So after a few years break from modelling, I've now completed 3 kits this week. The first one is a Tamiya 1/35th scale Achilles, which is done in the Royal Artillery, Italy, 1944. The second one he's finished is a 1/35th scale Mini Art Dingo, also Royal Artillery, 1944, Italy, and that came up really great. I've got a Dingo I've got sitting here. I need to start. And last one he's done is a Tamiya 1/35th scale Austin Tilley, which is a truck from Palestine, and he's got it in RAF colours, 1946. He says a few errors in all of them, but a learning process. And he's asking, are there any prizes for guessing the identity of the Falcon? Cheers, Nigel.
So far, the Falcon is going to be just known as the Falcon.
Well, he's written in. He reckons that his nomination is Robert. I don't know who Robert is. I've never heard of that guy.
Who's Robert?
No idea.
Never heard of him.
All right, thanks for that. Last
great.
one is from Owen Dawson, who hails from North Wales in the United Kingdom. And Owen writes, "G'day benchers, I've enjoyed listening to last week's episode about dioramas and groundwork. As someone who predominantly builds 1/35th armour and figures, I totally agree that a good base or diorama can transform a model tank. Regarding the discussion about what amounts to a diorama, I would also like to add to the concept of the vignette. A vignette might include 1 or 2 figures and even the corner of a building, but will usually be smaller than a diorama. Vignettes are great for adding context to a model, and for modelers who are thinking of getting into diorama building, they're a good way of learning new skills without having to take on the daunting challenge of creating a large scene. One tip I'd like to share with modelers who want to include flora and fauna in their groundwork is to buy a bottle of glycerin, also known as glycerol, from a pharmacist. This can be used to preserve plants and mosses for use on the base and to stop them from shriveling up and crumbling. Just like Ian said, keep your eyes peeled for something which you think works in the scale. Pick it up and then place it in a jar of glycerin for 24 hours. Just remember to paint the preserved plant before you put it in the diorama, as glycerin won't preserve its natural colours, which if left unpainted will quickly fade. The only bad thing about it is when I walk the dog in the local woods, it can take me an age to get around due to me scouring the undergrowth of shrubs for mosses, which I think would work in a diorama. Keep up the great work.
I bet you the dog doesn't complain.
No, I bet he doesn't. Keep up the great work, benchers. Cheers from Owen in North Wales.
That's a great tip on that glycerin.
Yeah, I've never heard of it.
To get me some now.
Yeah, I've never heard of it. Next one comes from Sean Vale Rhodes, who is from Richmond, USA.
Oh, is that in Virginia?
Yes, and he writes in, "Hey benchers, I just wanted to ask you guys a question regarding a technique I've seen used by another modeler on YouTube. I've watched a lot of different unboxings and build videos, and even build videos of model railroaders like Luke Towan, and guys that restore Matchbox Corgi Hot Wheel cars like
They're great, those guys. I love watching them on YouTube.
Marty's Matchbox Makeovers has an interesting technique to get his CA glue to cure. After he applies it, he sprinkles baking powder on it, and he claims it cures rock hard almost instantly. Have you guys heard of doing this? If you have,
Yes, I have.
Have you
I
tried
have
it?
heard of people. I've not tried it, but I have heard and spoken to people who use it actually as a filler.
Yes.
They
Yes.
actually mix it. They mix it together on like a little pallet and then apply it before it hardens. And it hardens like diamond hard.
Well, apparently
I've heard
this
that
guy
too.
from Marty Matchbox Makeovers is using it on small metal castings. So Sean is just asking if the technique is transferable to plastic, which I believe it is.
It is, but the concern is, my always concern is a harder putty on a soft plastic. When it comes to sanding, you're going to be losing a lot more plastic than you are going to be losing the super glue.
Yeah, I mean,
If you understand what I mean. The harder I sometimes use super glue as a filler, but I attack it as soon as it sets. I don't let it set for any longer than an hour while it's still, because otherwise it just becomes too hard and you run the risk of sanding. You're going to be sanding away more plastic than you are super glue.
Julian?
Yeah, I was on the super glue seam filler for a while because I was at the time I'd sort of gotten pretty tired of just the long drying times involved with the lacquer based putties like Tamiya putty.
Yeah, and how after a month they shrink.
Yeah,
Nothing
there's a
more
lot of,
annoying than having a really good looking kit, painting it up, putting it on the shelf a month later, all these seam lines start appearing.
yeah. Well,
Because the
that's
putty shrunk.
one downside. The second downside of the lacquer based putties is if you go too heavy with your lacquer based primers, it
Oh,
can
melts it.
upset it, and like your seam pops back up, and then of course you can't scribe it very well.
No,
It just
it
crumbles.
does. Correct, it crumbles. Yeah.
Yeah, so I went to the CA camp for a while, and yeah, I found myself just going through sanding sticks and sandpaper like crazy because it's so hard.
Yeah, and I can see this guy using it on the die cast. Yeah, because with the die cast, you've already got a very solid metal you're dealing with, so you're not worried about when you're applying the super glue bicarb mix, which is rock hard to begin with. You're not going to be taking too much of the metal away when you're sanding. Unlike plastic, is the opposite. You're going to be taking so much more plastic away than super glue that you're just going to end up creating shallows. In my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. That's why I've sort of gone off the CA bandwagon for fillers, and I've sort of gone to the Sprugo camp. I mean, I'm back to long drying times, but at least I can. It scribes no differently than the surrounding plastic. And
Well, it is plastic, isn't it?
yes.
You are applying plastic to plastic.
Yeah, and I mean, like the other thing I don't like about CA as a filler is it's partially transparent. So generally, you have to prime over the top of it before you can actually see how well it's really affected the surface.
Yep.
Like you do your sanding and stuff, and then you have to sort of like prime it to see, or hit it with a black marker to be able to see if that seam line's still showing. Whereas, I mean,
Correct.
with the plastic, plastic on plastic, it's just going to look all grey or, yeah.
Yeah, and I find the best way I learnt was because when I was a youngster, I did a bit of after school work at a panel shop, spray painting cars and so forth. And the first thing they taught us is once you put your undercoat on, you haze it with some black paint. So when you're sanding, all the low spots, all the scratches, and everything will stand out, and you can attack them.
Oh yeah.
And the same applies for a kit. I do the same with a kit now. Like if I putty something before I actually attempt to even put colours on it, so I'll hit it with a bit of black, sand it back, and that will show up exactly where all the low spots are.
Yep, I get you. Yeah. I've seen lighting effects, not sort of lighting effects, like to on bases actually, where someone's added like a gravel texture to a base, and then they've shot across the face of that. We're using, they've primed it in like a grey or a white, and they've shot across the surface in black, and it's or vice versa, the other way around, and it sort of adds a sort of lighting effect and sort of some shading as a base for when you put your colors on top.
Yep.
So that's fairly interesting. I would prefer to use the baking soda CA thing for structural strength. Where you've got, say, plastic that's under tension, and you've held it there, and you know that it's probably going to move if you just use regular glue. So you hit it with the CA, and you can pile that stuff in there, and it'll dry a lot faster, and you can even maybe hit it with some accelerator, and then it won't move.
Yeah, it's solid.
Yeah, I've had to do that with like warped parts in the warped fuselages and things like that. Works pretty well.
Well, with the Canberra, I used araldite. Because once araldite sets, it sets. And with a massive warpage in the Canberra, that's exactly. I had no choice but to use araldite.
I hate using super glue as fillers. I really do. I detest it.
Yeah.
Mainly because it goes off. Well, most of them go off pretty quick. And the second one is exactly what you said earlier on, Ian, is that super glue tends to be harder than the plastic around it, and trying to sand it is just without doing damage to the rest of the kit. Imagine using it on what's a soft plastic that Airfix use really soft plastic.
No, Airfix uses very soft plastic.
Yeah. So no, to test it. Great for everything else, but terrible for seams and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It's almost like a guaranteed way to flatten the top of your fuselage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, as you're trying to sand it down, you'll end up getting flat spots. Yep.
Nothing
flat
worse.
Spots and shallows.
Nothing worse than a flat spot or a shallow.
Yep.
Oh, excuse me. Now, I did have an email. Somebody wrote in, but unfortunately I've lost the email. I'm just desperately trying to find through it. You know how Julian's building the Musaru Cup model?
Yes.
This person actually wrote in and has built it and has done a review somewhere on the Modelling News website, and I'm just desperately trying to sort of slip through so I can find his name, but it's escaping me at the moment. So
no.
My deepest apologies. I have lost your email, so if you wouldn't mind just sending it in again, I'm sure both Julian and everybody else would find it interesting. And really sorry about that. That happens sometimes. Oh,
Dave.
I know. Well, I'm not perfect. I'm just putting my hand up right now. I'm not perfect. All right, guys, that wraps up our listener mail, which was a huge amount, and it's great. And of course, if you want to send us an email, you can write to us at onthebench64@gmail.com. Love hearing from you. And if you've got any questions, ideas, techniques, please drop us a line, and more than happy to take on all comers. If you don't want your email read out, that's fine. If you don't mind us reading your email out, if you could just let us know where you come from, which is great. It just helps us sort of put a face to the region. It's really good to hear. All right, let's have a look at what's new in the modelling world. And it's a pretty quiet week, actually. The only releases that I've really got is from Italeri, and they've announced 6 new releases for May. They're starting off with, in 1/48th scale, Hurricane Mark 1.
Now, it's not a new release, that's a reboxing.
Well, there you go.
And I have seen that kit built up a few years ago. It is beautiful.
Oh, is it?
Italeri have done a great job on the Hurricane. It is a nice kit. From what I've seen and what I've heard, it's a nice kit to build.
Well, this one
comes with an
engine.
engine.
It would build up into a nice kit.
Yeah. It comes with decal.
Getting there. Who knows?
It comes with decal sheets for 4 versions. Number 17, number 17 Squadron, number 1 Squadron, number 242 Squadron, And number 85 Squadron, as Ian said, all Battle of Britain, September, October, December. And, of course, it would be, given that it's a Hurricane Mark 1.
Yes.
Next up is a 1/12 scale F-104G cockpit.
Now, that is definitely not a new release because I actually built that when I was about 12.
Seriously?
Yep, and the F-16. They also had an F-16 cockpit.
Well, gee, it must be really old molds then if they're floating around. And you reckon you were 16. I mean, because that was like...
No, I was 12.
You were 12?
Yeah, I was a youngster when I built that. And it showed. It's long gone now, but yeah, I remember building it, and I remember building the F-16 cockpit. They were fun.
Yeah.
They were fun kits to build.
Well, it's got decal sheets for the instruments and placards, and the pilot's helmet is also included. The straps...
And you get fabric seat belts?
Yes, the straps for the pilot harnesses are also included, and as Ian said, they're a material, although you've actually got to cut them out yourself, and there's one that's a bit of a curve there, which would be interesting cutting that out. The sprues, there's not too many sprues. There's only about 3 sprues, I think, by the looks of it. And, the kit features 124 parts. Complete cockpit dials, decals, adhesive acetate silk seatbelts, and pilot's helmet and oxygen mask, as well as a pilot's visor, gun sight, and radar scope are all also in clear parts. The helmet looks quite good when it's all painted up.
It's a great little kit. It's something unusual, and they're a great little kit.
Yeah.
It is unusual. It reminds me of those large scale instrument panels that
Edward used to
that Edward, yeah. It's a bit odd.
They were in
People
one.
hang them up on your wall.
Were they 1/12 scale also? The ones from Edward?
Oh, I think it might even be bigger
It
than
might
that.
be big. I think one of them might be 1/4 or something, isn't it?
Or 1/8
Yeah,
or something like that.
maybe something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Next from Italy, we've got the Opel Blitz radio truck in 1/35 scale.
That was pretty cool.
And I think it's a Reeboks, to tell you the truth. I don't think it's a new one. I'm pretty sure this has been around before. And in 1/24 scale, a MAN F8 truck, a 4x2. For those of you who like building your trucks, let me see now. Just finding out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's about 7 sprues that it comes with. Tires are rubber. You get 7 of them. Yay. For those of you who enjoy building your trucks, I'm sure you're going to get a real kick out of that one. In 1/72 scale, a Heinkel HE111H model. Reeboks.
I'm having a look and thinking, I wonder if that's a Hasegawa.
Yeah, may well be.
Because I know Italeri does do with a fair few of the Hasegawa mouldings.
It's got decal sheets for 5 versions. One for 1939 paint scheme, one for Battle of Britain 1940, one for North Africa in 42, another Battle of Britain version, and one for summer of 1942 where it's got a torpedo mounted, which was used by KG-26, number 6.
That looks like the Mediterranean, and I would say that'd be the Mediterranean because it's got white all over it. White theatre band, white engine nacelles, and a white rudder.
Yeah, and torpedo mounted, of course. It's the only place you can think about using it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's not too bad. Next, in what an odd scale this is.
156.
Yes. It's
Isn't that old-fashioned wargaming scale or something?
I think that is old-fashioned wargaming scale.
So it's a Semoventi M13/40 M14/41. So it's an M40 and M41 tank. They're saying it's 100% new molds. So,
okay.
What do you think about that?
Besides the bizarre scale, I'm having a look at the sprues, and geez, they're well detailed. It's got full interior and everything.
Well, that's particularly interesting. I'm just trying to picture 156 scale, what that'll look like. So it's somewhere between 172nd and 148, obviously. I'm trying to just get my head around what a 156 scale looks like in size.
Yeah, it's a very bizarre scale. But just having a look at the built-up pictures of the kit itself, it's got quite amount of nice detail. It's a fully detailed interior.
Interesting little area giving us the dimensions of the box, but not of the actual kits themselves. So I don't know what the heck that's there for.
Oh,
No
because the people who are going to buy it are never going to build it, so they need to know how much space it takes up in their cupboard.
In their stash, yeah. That's exactly right.
That could be it.
I mean, that was a bit nasty, but it was a joke that I had to make nonetheless.
Yeah. But you know what? If they were in 148 scale, that'd make really interesting subjects for those of you who like to build in constant scale. Yeah.
Yeah, see, like that's why I'm not such a fan of that scale. You know, I mean, the 48 scale is hard enough to find support for armor and land vehicles.
Sorry, I meant 135th scale. Beg your pardon. Just looking at aircraft.
I'm just having a look at the sprues here for this kit, and for all the detail, it's got a ton of detail, but it's a very basic build. Like all the bogies are all moulded onto the side panels, so you don't have to worry about putting all your bogies together. Lincoln length track. Most of the interior pieces are moulded onto the walls, but it looks great. Until I actually see one physically in my hands. What I'm seeing here online, it's a nice looking kit. Not something I would build myself, but so I'm not that much into the Italian armour. Julian might like the Italian armour a bit more, but it's a nice kit.
No, I like Italian planes. Italian armor's not my thing.
Italian armour with little kangaroos painted on the side.
Yeah, I'm just bamboozled as to why they've gone in 156 scale. There must be some sort of push or reason for that.
Yeah.
I just can't figure it.
I think they've released quite a bit of stuff in that scale lately for their whole.
What all the tank stuff? Well, that's all 72nd scale though, isn't it? They're all the tanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of it's 35th, I think.
Not sure. We'll have to look into it.
All right. Well, that's all I've got for what's new. What about you guys?
Well, I got some very interesting news. I was down at the local hobby shop 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I was having a look, and they had about 12. Maybe a bit more than 12 wingnut wing kits there on display.
Yeah.
For sale. I went there yesterday. None left.
Wow. All sold out.
Yep. Someone's come in a week and bought every wingnut wings kit out.
Jeez.
And they had some big ones. They had like the new Gothers and everything. So whoever did that had a bit of cash to spend.
Well, either that or they're a real sort of enthusiast for wingnut wings, and knowing that at this point in time there's going to be no more being produced, they probably swooped in and thought they'll go into my stash.
Yep.
We've seen some crazy prices for some of the wingnut wings kits at eBay. It's just ridiculous.
Yep, people are going bananas.
They are. All right, guys, let's have a quick break, and we'll come back to talk about our subject, which is we're talking about today what we expect manufacturers to do into the future to value add to the kits that they sell. Bit of a mouthful, bit of an interesting topic. We'll be back very shortly.
Cool.
Fine Scale Modeler is the world's most recognised and essential magazine for modelers, and is available in all good newsagents and newsstands or wherever you purchase your magazines. Alternatively, go to their website www.finescale.com and subscribe to either a print edition or their digital edition. Go now. Go to www.finescale.com. Okay, and we're back, and that missing email was actually from Clayton Ockerby, who came and introduced himself to us. He's based up in Sydney, and my apologies, Clayton, I still haven't found the email, but he's actually given us a link to the Calibri that he has built, which is what Julian has to build for the Musaru Cup. And I do remember him saying that with the two rotor blades, you can actually take them out of the kit, so we can think about that when we're trying to organise it to ship across to Canada. So thanks very much for your email. Apologies I can't read it out because I haven't got it, but thanks very much, Clayton, and sorry that I lost your email. All right, let's get on and have a chat about our subject for today, which is about how model companies can enhance their kits. Now, there's one company that does this extremely well, and that is Edward with their super detailed sets, where they actually add in things like the resin. In some cases, they'll also add in photo etch parts, etc., etc. I'm just having a conversation with you guys as to what you think that manufacturers should be doing into the future to enhance their kits for the modeler.
Well, I think you'll find that canopy masks are probably the first line that will be adopted, if they do get adopted.
And Edward do that as well sometimes as well. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah,
Edward,
maybe not.
Tamiya.
Yep.
Yeah, Tamiya are starting to do it for sure. A lot of the smaller companies that are up and coming are sort of using that to leverage their way into the space.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like Dora Wings. What was the other one? There's a few companies out there. I really wish that Fine Molds would do canopy masks for their kits, or at least someone would. There is a company out there, I've forgotten who they are, but they do make canopy masks for the Fine Molds kits. But you know, I haven't like really like explored it and purchased anything, so you know, I haven't bothered to go that far. But yeah, that's what I would like to see adopted widespread. I would love to see canopy masks.
And
Yeah.
Especially for armored vehicles that have a lot of glazing.
Oh,
You know,
right.
like your infantry fighting vehicle, not infantry fighting vehicles. Sorry, the insurgency vehicles, the kind of stuff that you're seeing, like vehicles you're seeing like that have wheels and
the trucks and the 4x4s
the trucks
and everything.
and stuff that you see being used in the Middle East, your armored car type stuff. Yeah, I would like to see more canopy masks for those, because it really simplifies everything. Not having to mask all that sort of stuff or install it separately really simplifies everything. And not everyone wants to, spend time cutting their own masks. I don't.
It can be tedious, yes, I agree.
And
especially when you're doing something like with a greenhouse canopy.
Yes, and especially when the corners of those windows are rounded.
Yeah, curved corners, yeah. Yeah, it's very hard to try and cut.
I wouldn't even bother. Like if it's got rounded corners to the windows, stuff that. I'm not doing that. to get a proper, nice, unified look where it doesn't look all wonky. I don't have that sort of patience.
That's what we've got the Display circle cutters for, Julian.
No, not even. Oh, I suppose a little bit, but no, I'm still can't be bothered. I'm not spending like an entire week or something allotted to just canopy masking.
Yeah. Another thing I'd like to see is better instructions. Some of the companies now, like Wingnut Wings, unfortunately gone, they had some of the best instructions. The new Airfix instructions I find are quite good, whereas you get some kits and their instructions are just a couple of sheets of A4 with exploded diagrams, and the rest is left for you to try and figure out. That I think they can fix.
I think I'll settle for the bare minimum, which is instructions without mistakes.
Yes.
It's surprising.
Or super confusing instructions like Dragon likes to give you.
Yes.
Yeah, they're a classic, aren't they?
Actually, I would also like for trucks and other vehicles that have like a chassis that you have to build up first.
Yeah.
It's really common for those instructions to, between steps, they flip it over or turn it around, and it still looks the same. You just have to really pay attention to where, like, say, fuel tanks are located, assuming they're on the kit already, or which little bracket is at which end of the chassis, because it's really easy to install like a cross member or some other thing in the wrong direction or in the
Yeah.
wrong place.
Yeah.
It's
Yes. Totally
I've
agree.
I've come unstuck, and while I'm sitting there going, okay, I need to really pay attention, right? Because otherwise I'll end up doing something in the wrong place. I need to double check and triple check every time I glue anything onto this kit, and I still have made mistakes. It can be that confusing.
Yep. Yeah, that's what
So
I said. Good instructions are a must.
Yeah, I would like to see some kind of a key or something that indicates which is the front end and which is the right side up, so that if they do change it on me, at least I can refer to that and
Yep.
know which way they've changed it, so that they can show the installation of the next part.
What amazes me is that some of the modelling companies haven't partnered up with some of the aftermarket manufacturers, and I'm thinking perhaps here, let's think Armour in 135th, where you get those manufacturers that do, like Fruil, for example, that do the individual link tracks. Why don't some of these companies who build Armour partner up with these guys, and you get like a super detailed kit where all the stuff is already there? I mean, that would save, because part of a pain is when you actually purchase a model, then you're going to go off and search all the individual things you want to add on. Why not actually, to make my modelling experience a lot better, and for me to sort of say, yeah, I'm perhaps choose that particular kit, have everything all in the box ready for me to go?
Yeah, like a premium edition. You do get some premium edition kits. I know there's some premium edition ship kits. You've got the premium edition kits from Edward, which are like that. But I know what you mean, yeah. Because, we spend, especially our shipbuilders, we spend a fortune on aftermarket.
Oh, you can easily double.
It's usually about 5 or 6 times more I spend on the aftermarket than I do on the actual plastic kit itself.
Yeah, you can easily...
Also, you're fighting availability as well.
Because you can easily double the price of a ship. I mean, Pontos, they very well known for their aftermarket photo etch for ships, but they generally cost as much, if not even more, than the actual plastic model kit that you're buying to begin with.
Yes. Well, I know my Congo one costs 3 times more than what I paid for the Congo.
Yeah, and I'm sure you could get an economy of scale where if the ship manufacturer or the model company actually partnered up with Pontos to say, hey, when we're going to release this as a super media kit, I'd be happy to buy all in one rather than having to hunt down all the individual things.
Yes.
And
yes,
I actually would too.
And
I mean, the limited edition concept is fine. I'm happy for it to just be like a short run of limited number of kits.
Yeah. And you can do it exactly like Edward do. You can do your weekend builds where they've just got their straight bare kit, and then you can do their what you call like their super editions where you got all the stuff all in there.
Yeah, for those of us. Pack.
Yeah, and that's a great concept. But I'd just, I'd love to see other manufacturers sort of take up the cudgel and sort of move forward with this particular concept. Another thing I'd like to see more put into, particularly aircraft, is painting masks instead of decals. That must be a lot cheaper to do a painting mask set for than doing the decals. The decals must cost a fortune to do.
Yeah, decal printing is probably one of the most expensive parts of a model kit. The plastic's usually the cheapest.
The box would be expensive.
Yeah, the box and the decals are the most expensive parts of manufacturing a model kit.
I'm not sure how economically viable that would be, but I would buy it. Personally, I would buy it. But I'm thinking I'm probably in the minority. I'm just thinking, like you sometimes see kits with like bits of resin in them. I've got a few new ones that I've bought recently that have small amounts of resin or a bit of resin for a correction.
Yep.
But that's okay. I mean, like there's a lot of the special hobby kits will have resin in there for the engine. But I'd much rather see sort of ease of build type additions. So I wish they'd pay more attention to nose weights as well as structural strength. Because especially when you get into like the larger kits that are, you know, obviously quite popular these days, your 30-second scale stuff, you can run into strength issues.
Yeah, like whether or not the front undercarriage leg's going to be able to handle the weight.
Yeah, and like there are a few kits out there that I would like to build, like for example my 48 scale A&T kit of the Tiger Cat. I would love to build a Tiger Cat, but I'm never going to build it until I can replace the nose gear with something made out of metal instead of crummy plastic, because that's got the sketchiest looking nose undercarriage leg that I've ever seen in a kit.
This is really thin, is it?
Yeah, it really is. It looks like I don't know, like a shopping trolley wheel mounted on a pole. You know, a really skinny pole. Yeah.
Wow. So there's no chance of like drilling it out and slipping a bit of metal rod through there.
Oh, yeah, I'd be looking to replace.
I did that once with a Tamiya F15. Drilled the front leg out and put a metal rod in there.
Yeah, I mean, because I don't like. I know people will always tell me, "Oh, yeah," but they would, unless they were like ready to go, they would always sit on their ass, and that's why the kit comes with a barrel to prop up the ass end of it.
Like was it the Tiger Cat?
Yeah, the Tiger Cat kit. Yeah,
they were renowned. Those Tiger Cats renowned when they were empty of fuel to be sitting on their tails.
Yeah, but I don't care. I mean, when I see them, photos of them and stuff, I want them to be like ready to go.
Yeah,
like they're fueled up. They're ready for takeoff. That's how I want to model my plane, and you can't put any weight in that nose. I've actually seen someone's built it, and the thing was still a tail setter, despite how much weight he put in the nose, right? And I didn't want to touch this thing. He asked me to move it, and I didn't want to touch it because
in case it just collapsed.
Like if you can imagine, like the nose gear was missing, no nose landing gear was missing, and you just had it propped up on a toothpick. That's what it felt like. The thing would wobble around because there's so much weight in the nose, and you're like, oh, this is going to snap for sure.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go anywhere near it.
Yeah. There are some manufacturers, aircraft manufacturers, that actually do provide weights with their kits. I think Tamiya do a couple of them.
Tamiya does, yes.
Yes, they do.
I'm just trying to think of another manufacturer.
There's not many others that I can think of.
But Tamiya are clever because they'll do a weight that is not only designed to sort of be the correct weight, so it won't be a tail setter, but generally it's shaped and there's a section in the model to allow you to actually fit it in there, where it's supposed to, like there's a proper receptacle built inside the model for the weight to sit in there.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's right. Yeah, it doesn't sit loose. It's actually sort of, they've built a housing for it.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's not that much of a stretch to go the extra minuscule step to do something like that, is it?
Yeah, I mean, it provides like a great peace of mind. Like I know I can pick up the Tamiya MiG-15 and go, oh yeah, everything I've got to build it is right here in the box. Done. I don't need to go. I don't need to sort of build the cockpit up, and then when time comes to close the fuselage, oh, that's right, I got to source some metal thing to stick in the nose and make it the right weight and check its weight and mock it up so that I have to balance it on its wings and everything so that I can test that it's not a tail setter.
I mean, model manufacturers did do something similar a long time ago. You remember you used to buy a kit, and I think Airfix used to do this as well, that have some paints in there for you ready to go and a bit of glue so you could just sort of sit, even a couple of paintbrushes.
Oh, the starter kits.
Yeah.
Oh, the starter kits made for kids, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't like him to see him go back down that road because those paints and the glue that they provided were shocking. And you were paying a premium for something that, was no good. So what I'm hoping they'll do is they'll certainly go down that road, but they will put items in there that will be good, not bad like the old days. And another
Like
example, for
quality
example,
paints.
is exactly. Another example is like kit manufacturers. Some who do individual links will supply you with a jig, and others who do it won't. Even the same company will have individual links in some kits that don't have a jig for you to assemble the tracks, and then other kits of the manufacturer will. There's no real consistency as to, and it drives me nuts. I just can't figure out what the logic behind it is. Obviously, there must be some sort of economic logic there sitting behind in the background that drives these decisions, but I, for one,
Not always. I think sometimes it's a case of they've got like an A team and a B team for designing the
Oh,
kit.
like Trumpeter.
Yeah, like I know for a fact that Zvezda have had like these sort of issues where they brought out their T90, which was a great kit supposedly, and then they brought out their the Terminator version, which is essentially like a different turret on the same tank hull and chassis and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But you would think that they would just go, oh, we'll just design a new turret to slap on this existing kit that's already regarded as quite good. They didn't. It's a completely different. It's a completely different kit.
Yeah. Just back to what I was talking about with paints, how you used to get those starter kits. I certainly don't want to see manufacturers reintroducing paints again because paints are such a personal thing now where people have their, brands that they're more than happy to sit
Preferred
with.
brands, yes.
Yeah. So I wouldn't want to see that. That's for sure.
Well, you touch on an interesting thing because obviously a lot of kit companies are tied or have an allegiance to, or maybe even like some kind of like an agreement to pair themselves to a certain paint company.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see more kits where they've got a table and it's just got a list of all these different paint manufacturers and what paints you should be using for that kit.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that'd be a good
Yeah.
idea. So you didn't have to go sort of hunting around, much like what Dale wrote into us where he's trying to track down the right greys for his Bismarck. Why not in the instructions have a list of, not just, as you say, Julian, a couple of preferred paint manufacturers, but why not all the paint manufacturers, certainly the large-scale ones, and the call-out number for the particular brand for that particular grey?
And also the actual just the standard proper official name for that color, rather than like sort of Tamiya that sometimes will go, okay, well, such and such light gray, and not use the actual term, which would be say,
Or you'll get told by like Hasegawa to mix 4 parts of H72 with 6 parts of H12 and 2 parts of H14 and to make a colour. Rather, they should say, yes, all right, Megan, to use our brand, you've got to mix those colours, but this is what the colour is, and this is the FS number if it's available.
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
I just want to know I just want to be told, light gull gray or whatever it is.
Mm. Another thing I'd like to see, going on painting charts and so forth, and I'm pretty sure it's Trumpeter and Hobby Boss are the main offenders. When you get your painting sheet, the part which shows you what colours to paint and schemes and that, they never tell you what the aircraft is, what squadron it flew with, where it was based.
Yes.
And I find that really annoying.
Yep.
Yeah, I find that somewhat annoying too, because sometimes you go for example, you'll build a plane and you go, well, at least I've got the codes on the plane that I can maybe Google, but not the documentation isn't necessarily there. It might be just a scheme that's been sort of done up on as an image, but it's not written anywhere, so you can't search for it on the internet.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just a
generic.
Code,
you get nothing.
Yeah, it's just
you
a
have
generic.
to end up sort of backtracking somewhere, and like maybe someone knows who it is and they've mentioned it, and then you can go, okay, well that was the pilot, and you search up the pilot's name, and then suddenly there's so many photos.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, and that's then you have too much information sometimes.
Or even worse,
it's
just a generic artist rendition of what they think the actual paint scheme is.
Well, most schemes come from photos, right? that's how we get the information on these schemes and what they look like. So somewhere out there, there's a photo of that scheme. Well, they never, ever include it, right? I would like to see a photo added. I mean, it's not that big a deal, and so, I know in some cases they have to actually pay for the rights because someone will own that photo, and they'll have it
copyright.
they'll have it watermarked so that no one else can use it. But it'll be just dollars and cents to usually for those schemes, and even if that was the case, even if they were being the person who owned the photo wanted to charge a bit, it's no big deal. Just pick a different scheme.
Yeah, pick a different scheme. Absolutely. Yep. Use a photo that's in the public domain.
It's very rare for me to choose a kit scheme. Very rare.
Oh, jeez.
The only time ever I can remember using it, kit schemes were me Ford Model T and me Waffenträger. Everything else is pretty much aftermarket, or I've had to do it myself.
Actually, you know what I'd be interested in seeing? I'd be interested in seeing a book or some kind of like properly written up sort of a publication or even online version like a PDF where they say, okay, well, here's a plane and here's a photo of it and here's who flew it and blah, blah, blah. If you want to make a model of this, buy this kit, buy this aftermarket, right? This is what sometimes you have to drill into details like, well, this particular plane, sometimes they had these covers over here, but sometimes they didn't. And we know for a fact that in this one, it did. So you should take that into consideration because the kit doesn't come with those parts, blah, blah, blah. Like it's actually like a detailed plan on how to build a specific subject.
Okay, so I'm sort of following this. So instead of chucking everything all in the box, the manufacturer will build the base kit and then give you a choice of additional things to purchase for it, such as interior resin stuff, photo etch, as well as reference books, etc., etc.
Well, I mean, like even if it's just like, if you want to do better with our kit, here's what you should do. Here are some recommended aftermarket parts that we could recommend.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
I've seen that done with decals. So I bought, when I did one of my P47s, Thundercals actually had a really detailed breakdown. They said, okay, well, if you want to do this particular scheme, you're going to have to go off and get the quick boost different cowl flaps, right? And these are the specifics of this particular plane because it's a slightly different version.
Yes.
Right. I really appreciated that, and they really drilled into the details.
Yeah, I had a similar thing with. I'm trying to remember what brand it was, but I think it was a decal set for Focke-Wulf D9s, and one of the schemes they tell you've actually got to fill in some panel lines and create some different ones because this particular D9/13, whatever it was slightly different out of the factory to all the rest of it. And that is really handy information for the modeler.
Yes. I mean, these are people who have, gone to the difficulty of making aftermarket. So they are more in the know than anyone else. So they should, why not give that information,
Yeah.
Actually, it saves us from building a model and then finding out, by the way, dude, that thing on your plane over there, that wasn't like that. You did it wrong.
Actually,
and you go, it's already done now.
That's a very good point you raise there, Julian. The aftermarket manufacturers are generally the ones who have done all the hard research and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, very good.
I mean, I've had some pretty good dealings with Red Roo, who is a local company that specializes in Australian aircraft.
Yes.
And if you talk to the staff from them, they are very knowledgeable on all Australian subjects, like down to individual aircraft.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean,
especially got people like Ed Russell with them, and there's a man with a who's got the massive font of knowledge when it comes to Australian aviation.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's great if you can. I mean, we've got access because they'll turn up in person at our local modelling events, and you can ask them, say, I mean, this is what I did. I said to him, I want to build a boomerang, and he said, well, you should get this and this and this and that, and here's some extra information, and yeah, I mean, that's what I want. I want to be sort of. I'd rather not like have to, hunt around, do like the Easter egg hunt, looking for all these key pieces of information, and then find out later I missed some because I don't have years of time spent into it like he has.
Yeah.
Well, let's hoping that some modelling manufacturers are actually listening to this, and then into the future we'll see perhaps some of our wishes, desires, and recommendations coming through into some new kits.
And with some of the bigger brands, make sure that their quality control goes a bit higher.
I will add that the opposite end of the spectrum is I've seen kits where they actually haven't included the parts. They just put a little symbol in. When you read what that symbol means on the key, it says, make it yourself.
Yes, we've all seen those.
Yeah, thanks very much. Thanks very much. All right, we're just about hitting a hard time here because I actually have to shoot off and go and do some work, would you believe, on a Saturday, which is terrible.
Oh, lucky you.
Anyway, thanks for listening. So, Ian, sign off from you.
I'm going to do it differently today.
Oh, okay.
Before you judge a man, walk a mile in his shoes. After that, who cares? He's a mile away. You got his shoes.
Okay.
All right, Julian.
I'll just go with my normal one of buy more tools.
All right, guys. Thanks very much for being with us, and we'll catch you next week.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us for this week's episode. As always, if you want some more plastic modelling podcasting, check out our friends at Scale Model Mojo, run by Dave and Mike from Kentucky. And, of course, you've got the Scale Model podcast out of Canada with our good friends Stuart and Anthony. We'll be back next week with another episode. In the meantime, stay safe and thanks for listening.